Hello guys, TJ here. Here's a guide for the advanced dungeons, Noblesse Code, and Destroyed Castle of the Dead. Both of these dungeons have a time limit, combat restriction, and a special entry ticket to enter. Also, these dungeons have 3 difficulties: Normal, Expert, and Master. Now, let's start with Noblesse Code. To enter this dungeon, you'll need a ticket for each difficulty and 60 fatigue points. Playing as a party is unavailable, so it's recommended to play this dungeon with 4 characters, as it will be harder to clear the dungeon with only 1 character with combat restrictions. As for combat restrictions, consumable items and coins are unusable. You cannot change your equipment once you start the dungeon. Also, HP, MP, and cooldown of your skills is maintained throughout the dungeon. Once you choose a room to enter, you cannot go back, so make sure to choose wisely as you progress through the dungeon. The reward system of this dungeon is also slightly different. As you gather equipment by clearing the monsters, the equipment is gathered as trophies and can be distributed after clearing or failing the dungeon. Now, let's check out some of the patterns of the named monsters of this dungeon. First, the Bolt MX3. There are a total of 6 of them, and as you destroy the first 2 units, an additional 4 will appear. However, if you exceed a certain amount of time, more monsters will spawn. So the point here is to clear the room as soon as possible. King Destroyer has a basic pattern, so you use the boxes in the map to avoid getting attacked by the hook pattern and the wide attack that covers the entire room. Mad Rike summons robots that tracks your character. When this message pops up in the screen, quickly move behind the ice pillars to destroy the drones. After this pattern, a message pops up targeting your character and a gauge is created. As the time runs out, your character will be pushed as you get near Mad Rike. Wait for the drones to become red and make a distinctive sound to pass the target to Mad Rike. If you fail to do so, you'll receive significant amount of damage, and if you succeed, the drones will attack her, creating a groggy state. Rupert Dostar has an offensive and defensive mode. In the offensive mode, he tracks the player, attacking the player, and in the defensive mode, he takes guard, taking less damage. Deal as many damage as you can to increase the gauge. Once the gauge reaches 100%, he enters a groggy state. Queen Destroyer. When the message pops up, collect the drones sent by Lindsay Lawson to fill the gauge, creating a barrier before the time runs out. A counter is created on top of your character, and this number will increase each time you get hit. And when the number reaches 100, the character's soul is separated. Collect the black spheres in the room and return to your character. A light and dark gauge is created on top of your character. Use the tiles to change the gauge, and the point here is to create a balance. If the gauge reaches the dark or light side, the character will receive a strong attack that is impossible to evade. The color of the tiles can be changed with attacks of the boss monster. So just as the gauge of your character, it is important to have a balance in the tiles of the room. The boss monster changes the tiles of the room into a single color. Jump and move around to guide the boss monster attacks in order to change the color of the tiles. When the boss monster's health bar reaches 20%, it will enter in a siege mode, attacking your character with huge energy spheres. Next is the Destroyed Castle of the Dead. To enter this dungeon, you'll need a ticket for each difficulty and 30 fatigue points. Unlike Noblesse Code, you can play as a party up to 4 players to clear this dungeon. As for combat restrictions, using coins to revive your character does not reset the cooldown of your character's skills. You cannot change your equipment once you start the dungeon. And finally, HP, MP, and cooldown of your skills is maintained throughout the dungeon. In this dungeon, you will go through a rectangular map with different rooms. A room can have buffs, debuffs, or special abilities that can be used once per player through the tab key. Now, let's check out some of the patterns of the named monsters of this dungeon.
First, the revived gold crown. Here, he summons 3 bouncy balls, 1 with a crown doll and 2 with bombs. Try to remember which ball has a doll in it and attack it to create a groggy state. The monster creates a roulette table that spins around. There will be 3 colors in the table. Once the table starts spinning, you need to step in the blue area to avoid getting damaged and create a groggy state of the monster. The next monster is Becky. Becky moves everyone to the left side of the map. Then summons multiple pillars and drones around the map. Guide her attacks to break the pillars so you can run to the safe zone on the right side. In this pattern, pick up the shield that is located in the room to deflect her attacks. Next is Golgotha of Darkness. You'll see an eye on top of your character. This eye can be dark or light colored. Your job here is to collect the matching color satellite. Make sure to collect the satellite before the time runs out. Finally, pay attention to the message that pops up in the screen and create a groggy state of the monster. Depending on the gauge of the boss monster Kalvari, her attacks will change. Also, stand behind the debris to dodge her attacks. The boss monster has a gauge that keeps changing. If you can get both of the gauges to a 0%, you'll create a groggy state. The boss monster will enter in a self-destruct mode when the HP of the boss monster reaches 1%. Dealing enough damage will stop the self-destruct sequence. If you fail to do so, the boss monster will explode, dealing fatal damage. I hope this video can help you guys clear the new advanced dungeons. If you found this video useful, please leave a like and a comment down below. This was DJ, and see you next time.